In the early 1960s, New York was really a hotbed of avant-garde experimental arts going on with John Cage experimental music and the Zen systems, Lamont Young and his experimental music, and avant-garde dancers. So it was really a very rich culture in the early 1960s in New York. And I was part of the Lamont Young group, performing group, as a drone. Lamont would do 24-hour pieces, you know, and friends of mine would drone with him. And I don't recall exactly what year or what was the event, but at some point John Cale was at Lamont's. He had come over on a scholarship and for classical music training, but was had slipped into the avant-garde classical music, you know, the experimental music area. And John Cage and Lamont Young were pretty much the most important composers in New York. And John Cale probably coincided with Lamont Young more easily than John Cage, because Lamont was like a dealer of the highest quality drugs you could get in Manhattan at that time, you know, including opium as well as the best grass and the hash. And John is known to be, well, no, he's very puritanical now. He has a manager who keeps him walking a strict line. But he was a great connoisseur of narcotics, as was I and as was Lamont. So John started playing the violin or the cello, whatever was his appropriate role in Lamont's group at the time. And also Angus MacLeese, who was the original percussionist in the Velvet Underground, was working in this group with Lamont Young. There guy Tony Conrad and other people who were, you might say, the mainstays of the avant-garde arts in New York. You know, they weren't populist seekers, they weren't money mad, or they were just there for the art. And that's what that whole culture was at the time. It was the art for art's sake culture, literally the New York avant-garde. So John was a pretty quiet guy. We had a great rapport, which all of the people who worked in that group did. You knew you were on the same mental plane, coming from the same place, had the same drives and goals, which was producing wonderful art. I didn't have any more involved relationship with John at the time, probably more with Angus. Angus was almost a folk hero already at that time. And you tended to cluster around him, or other people would, and you were just there. But Angus had a little more interaction of a mystical sense. John was just very crisp and clear. And so that was my first meeting with the original Velvet Underground founders, you know, other than Lou and Sterling. And they were just both great guys, John Cale and Angus MacLeese. Were like marvelous, wonderful, brilliant, intelligent people. The whole Lamont Young cluster was like that. And I was part of that culture. I was also a lighting designer for avant-garde dance companies at the Judson Church, at the Living Theater. And so the whole avant-garde was integrated, whether it be dance, theater, music. Everyone knew each other and would work in each other's performance pieces, what have you. So it was that really authentic art world scene, which later on we find the factory situation was a total other thing. But these people came from there, you know, as did I.